All right, now I'm up here to tell you to get seated, and we're going to get started really quick. Let's get pumped for LTC!
Check.
Almost there, man. You got this.
All right, welcome. Ooh, you turn me down a little bit. Thanks. We good on the live stream? Cool. Yeah, welcome those of you that are joining us online, and welcome everyone that's in person tonight. Yeah, let's give it up again for LTC. This is really exciting. This is a big deal. What a good-looking group. This is amazing. This is awesome. This is honestly one of the most exciting times of the year for us because this is what we're all about. This is everything to us. Leadership is not some program that we add on to our ministry. It's not just something extracurricular for us. This is what we're about. We are all about this. As the slide says, we exist to make disciple makers. Not just to make disciples, but to make disciple makers. All right, that's why you're here tonight, is to learn not to be a disciple, but to be a disciple maker. When I say Chi Alpha, what do you feel, or what do you think about? When I reference this ministry called Chi Alpha, what comes to mind? What's your experience? How do you think about it? A lot of people that come into Chi Alpha, they are just passing through. It's maybe something that they tried several times in college, and that's all it is to them, is that group that they checked out once. For other people, they have an incredible college experience in Chi Alpha, but it leaves no mark on their life afterward. Other people, this is where they learn to walk with God for the first time. This is where they're transformed, where they truly begin to understand how to follow Jesus. And there's all of us in this room, we have different ideas of what Chi Alpha is. And so I want tonight to kind of give you, as best I can, what I think and what I hope would be the idea you take away from this ministry, what we're really about. I hope that you get this impression through LTC. I hope that you understand it through your small group experience. And if you choose to go on leadership, and if this results in you being on leadership next year, I hope that you walk away with lifetime convictions about what we are as a ministry, Chi Alpha, okay? If you were to sum up Chi Alpha in one word, that might help us define it a little bit better. For some people, that word would be challenge. This ministry definitely challenges people. We don't hold back from preaching truth on Wednesday nights. I'm sure in your small group meetings, you've had some challenging meetings where your small group leader has really challenged you, maybe one-on-one. In discipleship, you've been challenged. We challenge you to go on missions. We challenge you to really be stretched. I would say that's an accurate description of Chi Alpha. Another one would be community. Okay, we hear that word a lot. I would say a more accurate word would be family. And I hope that that's your experience. If it's not yet, I want to tell you that I believe if you invest in this community, it will be. If you invest, if you make this your people, your tribe, your squad, whatever you want to call it, if you make it this, if this is the group that you run with, over time, it will become family. And for some of you, you're there. You're totally bought in. You've got brothers, you've got sisters here. For some of you, you're a little bit newer to this group, and that's okay. But I want you to know that that's something you can look forward to. The word that I want you to take away, however, if you were to describe Chi Alpha with only one word, would be discipleship. If you stripped away everything we do, Outpost Live, you took that away, False Salt, got rid of it. If you didn't have ski trips on the weekend, like we just went on, some of us, yeah, if you didn't have all those things, what are you left with at the end of the day? And my hope and our aspiration is that it's discipleship. Yeah. That's what we're all about. That's the rubric we look through to determine everything we do. Is it good or bad? Is it worthwhile or not? Is if it helps us make disciples, let's do it. But if it doesn't, we want no part of it. That makes us different. And you may have noticed some differences in our ministry compared to maybe churches you grew up in, or other ministries you may have been involved in, because we are very, very convinced that we're all about discipleship. God, it's interesting how he has a plan to make disciples, and that's really the plan, okay? When Jesus comes to the earth and is incarnated as a man, he has had this plan in mind way before he arrives. Isn't that interesting to think about? That there was a plan that was put into motion through Jesus that eventually led to this group of men following him, who we call disciples, and culminated in them being the ones who carried on this mission or this plan. And what's interesting about God is when he makes a plan, he always makes the best plan. He never makes a plan that's second rate. There is no plan B. There's no alternative. Jesus is so interesting. He leaves us 4 commandments at the end of each gospel. If you look at the end of Mark, at the end of Luke, at the end of John, and the end of Matthew, if you look at the last commandment that Jesus gives to the disciples, it's fascinating. Let's look at that slide. You see in Matthew 28, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, right? Teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you and baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That is the last commandment of Matthew. Make disciples. Disciple the nations, the world. Then we see Mark. Preach the gospel to every creature, or all of creation. So go forth and proclaim this gospel. Right? And then we see in Luke, wait in Jerusalem until you're clothed with power. And that's the Holy Spirit. And we will have a class soon here talking about that commandment and how we obey it. And then the last one in John, which is interesting, where Jesus is talking with Peter and he has that interaction with him on the beach after Peter has hauled this large catch of fish and they're having breakfast, and Jesus has asked him, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord. After all of that, the very last thing that Jesus is recorded saying to Peter is, follow me. So if we're to really be serious about Jesus and obeying him, we should especially be very serious about the last words he gave while he was physically present on this planet. Right? If you have a loved one who's passing away, their last words are especially precious and to be listened to. How much more the Son of God? And so Jesus has given us his last words, so to speak. He's alive, but his last commandments that are standing orders. They haven't changed this whole time. There's not been a new commandment come down onto the church to change plans or change course. This is it. This is our marching order. Sadly, the church has been disobedient to some of these commands, if not all of these commands, and especially the commandment to make disciples. And we are in the predicament we are in as a people, as a nation, because of our disobedience to make disciples. And our hope is that we would correct that we would make disciples in obedience to what Jesus has said, right? The church is looking for better methods. God is looking for better men and better women. Okay? That's Ian Bounds, old dead guy. One of my all-time favorite quotes. Yeah, one of my all-time favorites. The church is looking for better methods. How true. Always trying new programs and implementing new ideas and new strategies, and there's entire magazines devoted to better methods. But God is looking for better people. God is looking at people. God deals with people. The most valuable thing you come into contact with in this world are other people. More valuable than any career you're aspiring to have, as much as you may love the field that you're studying, it pales in value compared to the people you are studying it with. People are what God is all about. And so that's what we're all about in Chi Alpha. We're all about making disciples because that's all about people. It's centered on raising up leadership. And that's how you change the world. It's not as much about our methods, although we have those and you're going to learn about those. Those are secondary. People are primary. Jesus, before he selected his 12, prayed all night. It literally says that in Luke's gospel. Before he chose the 12, it says he spent an entire night in prayer, and then out of everyone that was following him at that time, he selected 12. You see, it's a big deal who he chose, right? Plan A, no plan B. These 12 guys are going to hold the mission in their hands. Should they fail, the whole thing fails. But God knows what he's doing. And he's entrusted this incredible mandate of reaching the world, of reconciling the lost, of advancing his kingdom to 12 disciples. And the way he tells them to do it is to go and make disciples. That's it. Go and make disciples. And it will work. And trust me, it has worked. And is continuing to work today. And you all are here because discipleship works. We say this: you are as close to God as you want to be. This is one of my all-time favorite, what we call maxims. You're going to hear a lot of these in the class. I hope you've heard some at Outpost Live or in your small group. You're really going to hear them in this class. You're as close to God as you want to be. What does that mean? Why were there 12 that got to be chosen for this incredible mission? And of the 12, we see there were 3, Peter, James, and John, who were especially chosen by Jesus to spend extra time with him. Peter, James, and John got to watch some wild things happen. They saw a young girl who had been dead raised to life. They were the only ones in the room with Jesus and her parents who witnessed this miracle. They were the only ones to watch him be transfigured on the Mount of Transfiguration. They were the only ones who were brought into this inner circle. So why did they get to be there? Does Jesus have favorites? And if so, what is the criteria? You all are here tonight because you've met this criteria. And I want to reassure you, who are feeling maybe doubtful about why you're here or your ability to do this. which may be most of you at this point, that it's not about your personality. Can we just totally delete that idea from our minds tonight and henceforward? It is not about your personality. This discipleship does not operate only for extroverts or people that like to be around people all the time. Right? Yeah. It's not about personality. That's not why Peter, James, and John were as close to Jesus as they were, or why the 12 were handpicked. The reason why they were brought into that fellowship is because they wanted to be. Come on, right? You're here tonight because you want to be. Something inside of you is drawing you. Whether that be the Holy Spirit and you're just here out of obedience right now, that's okay. Or you have that deep desire starting to burn within your heart. You want to be close to Jesus. You want to be in that inner circle. You can be. And it's not based on your talent, your natural gifting, or anything natural about you. It's totally based on your desire. I love that. I love that about Peter and John, because you see that in their lives. Peter, quick to fail, quick to obey, quick to make things right. When he's corrected, he listens. That's what you need to have to be effective at making disciples. You need to be like Peter, quick to obey. If you mess up, which you will, quick to get right back on course. John, he's always spending time with Jesus. And when you read his gospel, he's there from the very beginning. He's the first, and he's there at the very end. He's the only one of the 12 that watches Jesus' crucifixion. Okay? Everyone else is hiding, but John's there. Man, John, the disciple whom Jesus loved. You see, if you want to be close to Jesus, you can be. And if you want to make disciples, you can. That's it. It's that simple. It's that simple. I promise you. We're looking for you to be one of 3 criteria. We want you to have all 3 of these. Faithful, available, teachable. Or FAT. Sorry, that's not a very nice way to put that acronym, but we got that from Texas, where they were okay with using that, and the people are not small, okay? So they were okay with it. We can use it. Don't worry. Don't feel bad. You want to be fat. You want to be faithful, available, teachable, okay? You want to be faithful, available, teachable. That's their criteria, which is why it's not about how long you've been walking with God. Some of you in here, it's not been very long, and you're wondering, should I be here tonight? Others of you, thankfully, have had a long faith journey with the Lord. You've been raised to follow him. You've never really disobeyed. I praise God for each one of you, because I hope that for my kids, that would be their story. But here's the reality. Here's another maxim, okay? Time does not equal distance to God. Just because you've been a Christian for 20 years doesn't mean you're any closer to him than a brand new believer. In fact, there are people who have been sitting in churches like this year after year, week after week, who are no closer to God as a result. Time does not equal your distance to God. You can be as close to God as you want to be tonight. Okay? You can be as close to God right now as you desire to be. It's not about time. So put those things aside. Lay those aside. Lay those fears and those insecurities away. They will come back. There will be a whispering in your ear. You're not qualified. You're not cut out for this. You shouldn't be here. I want you to practice, starting now, ignoring those lies and understanding the truth that if you want it, you can have it. Okay? What is God's plan for CSU? I want to introduce you to the story behind why you're here tonight. There was a ministry called Chi Alpha at a university called Sam Houston State, and it's in Texas, Huntsville, Texas. It's a very not glamorous place to live. I've lived there for a few months. My wife, Ileana, that was her school. She's an alum from Sam Houston, and she was involved with their Chi Alpha. At the time that Ileana was there, it was the largest Chi Alpha in the country. And here it was in weird, strange Huntsville, Texas. Huntsville is where all the state prisons are located. You can hear the bell go off for like their recess. They have death row there. They have some of the strangest restaurants you'll ever eat at. The townies are just very interesting people to be around, and yet out of that campus that people go to because they have no other choice, because they're not getting into A&M or UT. They go to Sam Houston. All these people that everyone else would overlook, a lot of them just lukewarm, living for Jesus, or not having any relationship with him at all. Out of that grew the largest Chi Alpha in the nation. You could go to their Outpost Live, their version of that, on Thursday nights, and you would see over 1,200 students worshiping Jesus. Okay? They started with just a few. And when they had the same convictions that I'm about to share with you tonight, they had the same things that I'm giving to you tonight. And they grew to that. And they have sent people all over the world. They sent a team up here to Colorado. The reason why that team came up here is Nate Banky. Nate, our fearless leader. So if you could go to there's a photo, I believe, of the team. Not all of the team, but this is the core of the team. I want to focus on these guys tonight. Okay, on the left there you have Tyler. You guys have seen Tyler. He's getting ready to go back to India. We have Nate, of course, Josh Nicholas there in the middle. Cool, Josh. Man, yeah, we used to have a water polo team named after his biceps. Janek's biceps. He's pretty swole and used to be part of a fraternity. He actually, interesting story about Josh, he was radically saved in college. He had a tragic death in his family. His twin brother passed away, and he was not living for the Lord, and it was a major wake-up call in his life. And while he was driving one night, the Holy Spirit met him in his car. He had to pull over on the side of the road because he was encountering God so powerfully in that moment. And all he knew were a couple people that were in Chi Alpha. And he ended up being discipled by a guy who was completely the opposite of him, Chris Scroggins. Chris is a nerd. He hates people in Greek life. Like, he hated them in Greek life. And then God gave him Josh Nicholas. But Chris discipled Janik. Josh. And Josh, to this day, is one of the greatest disciple makers I've ever known. I'm going to share a little bit about his story here in a second. And then you have Duncan, of course. You guys are familiar with Duncan. He is now leading the Chi Alpha at UNC, so he didn't go super far away from home here in Fort Collins, but he came from Texas. He was also saved in college when a girlfriend broke up with him and his world was ending as a freshman. And he cried out to God because that's all he knew to do in that moment. And God met him. And people have come to Jesus for worse reasons. Okay, but we're thankful that Duncan went through that breakup because he also became an incredible disciple maker. Duncan was our intern director for a lot of years. He was my intern director when I was here. So Duncan is the one who really helped me cultivate a mind in love with God. I learned what that meant through Duncan. And then last on the end there, you have Jake. I don't know if I'm going to make it through tonight without getting emotional, because of what these guys mean to me and because of what this night means to me. But I love Jake. Jake was my small group leader. Jake's the reason that I know Jesus. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to go back to Josh. Josh Nicholas came here. So they came here with a few others. Duncan was married to Lori at the time, so his wife Lori came up. Then there's another guy not pictured, Andrew Murph, and his wife Leslie. And Leslie is really the reason why we have any of you girls that are here tonight in this ministry. She held it down. When we went through a period of time where there were like almost no girls in Chi Alpha, we had a lot of issues we were working through years ago. And Leslie, because of her faithfulness, is the reason why y'all are here tonight. So yeah, it's amazing. But the team came up, they moved here from Texas. They left behind everything comfortable and warm, and they left behind good barbecue and good Tex-Mex to come up here and learn that we call it a barbecue, but it's really a grill. Like we're grilling burgers and we call it a barbecue, and they were so offended by that because it's not barbecue. Barbecue is smoked meat that's been smoked over a long period of time. Duncan will tell you all about it. Anyway, they came up and they moved up here to Fort Collins. And I mean, Josh had the biggest U-Haul. When they arrived at his house to pick him up, he hadn't finished packing on the move-out day. So they're frantically throwing everything in boxes. He brought his bird bass. Like, who has bird bass? He was like, I gotta bring my bird bass. And they were driving up from Colorado, or from Texas, and late into the night, Josh is driving this big U-Haul with Duncan, and he's starting to fall asleep. And Duncan's like, Josh, I think I should drive. Josh's like, no, Duncan, I got it. Duncan's like, Josh, you pull over right now, because I'm not gonna die for your pride. And so, I mean, they finally arrive up here. It's August 2009, and they know nothing about Fort Collins. They know nothing about this campus. They just walk onto it and they start meeting people. And one of the first people they met was actually me. I was in the student center back before it was renovated. I was sitting across from where First National Bank used to be in the LSC. I can still picture where I was sitting down when I met them. And here comes this crew walking up. And you're never approached by people, at least back then, you were never approached by a group of guys unless they were a frat. Okay, and so that's my first thought. Are you guys a fraternity? Josh still had his frat look. He had long hair and probably was wearing a fraternity t-shirt. And they were like, no, we're not a frat. We're actually part of a ministry. And at that time in my life, I thought that was worse. So I reluctantly gave them my phone number, almost giving them a fake, okay? That's happened to small group leaders, sadly. I almost did that. I'm so thankful I didn't. But this is literally the first question they asked. Do you like steak? I was like, yeah, I guess. They're like, we're going to grill some steaks. And sure enough, the first time I hung out with them, we grilled steak. And it became a tradition after that. Josh went out and he met a bunch of guys, and including this really interesting guy named Cole Hawking. He was moving in, and so they were helping during dorm move-ins, which we didn't get to have this past fall, but in the past, and hopefully this next fall, you will get to experience the magic of dorm move-ins. It's one of the most exciting times to be on campus, meeting freshman students, first-year students as they arrive. And Cole was arriving with his parents, and he was one of those people you look at. When you're doing dorm move-ins, you're looking at people who you can meet and interact with. And Cole had serious, like, stay away from that guy vibe, right? He was like terrifying, all black, just looked like he wanted nothing to do with Jesus. And when they talked to him, they confirmed their fears. He definitely wanted nothing to do with the Lord. And so they have this interaction with him. It doesn't go well. They get his number and they move on. Well, Cole is stopped on campus by some dear friends of ours that asked him, if he were to die, where would he go? And in that moment, hard-hearted, rebellious Cole, he said he couldn't remember anything else this guy said to him. It's like the Holy Spirit was standing right in front of him asking him that question. And he knew it was time to start living for God. He gave his heart to Jesus right there, and the only people he knew to talk to after that moment was Josh and Tyler, who he had just met not long before. So Cole started coming around, and he got involved the same time I did. We started going to the first Outpost Live. It was like 20 people, and 6 or 7 of those were in the band. So it was kind of strange, you know. It wasn't a lot to it. It was really simple. And you may wonder why we would have gotten involved with a ministry like that until you realize how incredible these guys are. And what they gave us was better than anything anyone had ever offered us before. And so Cole had his life transformed, and they started making a disciple out of Cole. Cole ended up meeting a guy the next year. Cole went through LTC. He was part of that first LTC class of 9. I was in that class as well, so that was in 2010. The first LTC. You are in the 12th LTC right now. The very first one was 9 people, and we had just hearts full of dreams and vision for how we would change the campus. We had no idea what that meant or what that looked like, but we were full of faith in God. We had seen God just move mightily in our midst, and he had gotten a lot of us to get right with him. And so we trusted the Lord, and we said yes. We'd go through LTC, and so Cole became a small group leader. That first year that we went out on campus, it wasn't just staff, now it was students. It was Cole going out, and he connected with a guy that knew him from high school. This guy, his name was Darren. Darren Peterson was, he was Joel's roommate now. Darren came into college, maybe like some of you, with a strong belief in the Lord. He had just gone through YWAM. He had just been on his mission. He was living for God, but looking for something in college that would help him. And he meets Cole Hawking. They knew each other in high school, and Cole had a reputation in high school for being rebellious and a jerk, and just, again, the guy that you don't want to be around. And so Darren meets him and is shocked to find out that Cole is not the same Cole that he remembered from high school. Here's a completely different guy. Totally different now. And so Cole ends up discipling Darren. And Darren ends up becoming a small group leader. And then Darren ends up making disciples. Right. Janik also discipled a guy named Mikey Stewart. Mikey came in from out of state, from Alaska. He actually wanted to start a Chi Alpha at the same time the team arrived. Then he found out that they were already starting one, so he joined it. Mikey is one of the most interesting guys I've ever met. He has a lot of really interesting, I don't know how to explain it, like his body tics, I guess, like just things he does when he's excited or when he's laughing. It's just so distinctive. But he ended up meeting a guy you know, probably Eric Sandquist, and discipled Eric. Okay, and then Eric Sandquist met another guy you might know in Corbett, the dining hall, before it was the Foundry. It was this really janky, not so fun to eat at place. Just called Corbett, right? And it was, I worked there for a semester. I think it was a rite of passage to work at Corbett. Not glamorous at all, but sure enough, at the taco bar, they met Eric, and he had hurt himself, and they prayed for Eric Unruh, okay? And so Eric met Eric Unruh received this prayer, and it actually started to change his life. And he started hanging out with Eric Sandquist, and after a few months hanging out with these guys, he gave his life to the Lord. He got right with Jesus, and he became a disciple maker, right? And so a couple of the guys in the room tonight are from Eric Unruh, Jason and Giovanni. Yep, there you guys are. Yeah, and it's just amazing to see this lineage. So you're going to learn about that. We're all about the lineage, okay? We're all about the lineage. We're all about that generation after generation of disciples. We had an amazing girl. I want to mention the girl's story a little bit. There's this incredible girl. Her name was Abby, and Abby married Josh. And Abby became also one of the most fruitful disciple makers we've had on this campus. So they're a power couple by far. And Abby discipled a girl named Annalisa. Annalisa came into college and similar to Darren, just had a faith background. But when she got plugged into this community, it became so much more to her than just, I want to stay a Christian through college. Suddenly it became, I want to leave an impact on CSU. I want to transform this campus for God. That's what it turned into through discipleship, through Abby. And so Annalisa became literally one of the most fruitful disciple makers ever. I would say probably at least half of you girls that are here because of Annalisa. So you need to understand something. When we're talking about our story, and we're talking about discipleship, you're here tonight not just because of your small group leader, but because of what their small group leader did for them. See that? It's not just because your small group leader fought for you and loved you and got you to this place where you're at right now. But they had someone that did it for them, and that person had someone that did it for them, and that person had someone that did it for them. And it goes all the way back to crazy Huntsville, Texas, where it was just a handful of people with this conviction. Passed on again and again and again, right? This is our vision. We've had 3 generations of students go through and graduate every 4 years. So I told you this is the 12th LTC. 2021, fall 2021 will be the 12th anniversary of Chi Alpha at CSU. And we are transforming the university. We are leaving it better than when we arrived. It is a better university because Chi Alpha is on it. We are here to transform the university. And the way we're going to do that, the vision we have, is that everyone on campus would have a Christian fighting for them to know God. Not just everyone on campus knowing a Christian in general, which does nothing for them, but everyone on this campus, atheist or agnostic or Buddhist or Hindu or whatever they believe in, they have somebody fighting for them, trying to lead them to God. In order to get there, we need 500-ish people doing that. To have everyone, if you do the math, which Nate does it, not me, Nate does that math, then you know that you need about 500 people to get there. Check this out. If each one of you puts through 2 people through LTC while you're students, we would get there in 10 years. So we've been here 12, 10 more, and we would be at that place of everyone on this at CSU. Can you imagine that? Every single person has at least one person that is trying to lead them to the Lord. I can't tell you how many times I go on campus to do outreach, and I talk to people that have so many questions about God, and I can tell that they have no one fighting for them because they're asking them all to me, someone they've just met. Okay? So this campus definitely has a long ways to go to being fully transformed. So we're aspiring to that vision. But we're not just here to be a college ministry. We're not just here to be, we're not here because you're college age and we need a college age group. I want you to understand, so if you take something away tonight, take away this. We're here because this is the most strategic mission field in the entire world. We are convinced that you as students are best able to make disciples in this phase of life. You're never going to have an opportunity like it ever again. You're never going to have a better moment to make disciples, to live life with people, to get into their world. We'll talk about these concepts in LTC. You'll never have a better opportunity than now. And so this is not just about our college thing. It's way more than that. It's strategy. This is so strategic. We are going to change the world through this university. And in fact, already have. We've started. We've sent teams to Russia. You may have heard a little bit of that story. Nate and I went to Russia in 2012, along with his wife, Lindsay, and another girl, Lauren, who had graduated from here and was a small group leader from Chi Alpha. And the 4 of us went and we made disciples over in Russia. Tyler is going to Russia to literally kick off Chi Alpha for the entire nation. That's his next, excuse me, India, thank you. I know I said something wrong when I look at Ileana and she's giving me this weird look. Like, I need to be corrected. India, he went to India, he's going to India, and he's kicking off Chi Alpha for the nation of India. Right? And then you have Josh, who's been all over the world. He leads the mission program. He's currently serving, helping lead Chi Alpha at Texas A&M in College Station, Texas. So we are changing the world. That's our goal. We are also going to change the marketplace. We know and recognize most of you are going to go and you're going to work in the marketplace. And that's not a non-calling. That in itself is also a calling. Let me ask you this, does God do anything, do we see him doing anything in the Bible that's not religious? Yes, plenty in the Bible that's not religious. I can think of the very first example in the book of Genesis, very early on, when God plants a garden. We see that God is a gardener. That's not religious at all. We see that God is a teacher. God is a coach. We see where God is an engineer. He's a bookkeeper. We see he is a writer. He's a storyteller. He's an entertainer. All these things, all these aspirations you may have come from their source in God. What if your field, your profession you were going into, was being transformed because you're in relationship with that God that is the source of that field, right? And what if you were reaching your coworkers and discipling them? That's what we want to prepare you for. We want to transform way more than just CSU. We have a way bigger vision than that. Don't be overwhelmed by that vision. You're just like, I just got the LTC. I'm just thinking about maybe doing this next year. Don't worry. I just want you to know, we got big plans, and God, He's a God of big plans. He's a God of big vision. If we had any smaller vision, we'd be acting in unbelief. And that's how big He is. He's able to do it. I want you to begin believing in yourself that you can transform the world by doing this, by making disciples. We say this, what God does in you, He wants to do through you. One of the maxims, if I were to pick one that defined Chi Alpha, this would be it. What God does in you, He wants to do through you. All we're asking of you in this whole process is to do for someone else what's been done for you. Right? You all are here because somebody else made that effort to meet you and to reach out to you and to spend time with you and to help you work through issues and dilemmas that you've had. And maybe you had a faith crisis and they were there to help you through it. Spiritual maturity is fruit in someone else's life. It's not fruit in your life. It's fruit in someone else's life. That's spiritual maturity. When someone else gets it because of you, because of the way you're walking with Jesus, that is maturity. That's maturity. And Jake came here to this campus to fight for me. I think I have a picture of us together. In this photo, we are flying to Mexico City for the first mission trip that we had. This was 10 years ago. Yeah, a lot of time has passed. Our style was terrible. I was looking back at photos and I was just really like embarrassed by the clothes I used to wear. But here we are flying to Mexico City. This is spring semester of my junior year at CSU. I had just given my life to the Lord 2 months before this photo at a SALT conference. And Jake was instrumental in that decision to follow Jesus. There was no one else on this campus that was going to reach me. I just have to be honest. We don't have a monopoly on discipleship. We don't. And it would be arrogant to say we do. We don't. There are other very, very awesome ministries at CSU that are also making disciple makers. But the way in which it was done through this particular group, I believe, to this day, the only way it would have reached someone like me. So there are people on our campus that can only be reached through the way that we do it. That's just a fact. And I had tried out and been invited to other ministries, and I had wanted nothing to do with them. I was hard-hearted, rebellious, I was selfish. I wanted to live what I thought would be a life of fulfillment, and I knew in my heart at that time that was at odds with the morality of Christianity. And I just wanted to be more selfish. That's just being honest. And that's the time in my life when I met these guys, when I was making decisions to break away from strong moral values that I had been raised in. I was making conscious effort to get away from them. I was removing myself from my Christian heritage step by step, and I was beginning to run. And at that same time, God brought these guys into my life and brought Jake. And I remember the first thing that struck me about Jake is that he deeply loved the Lord, and he had fun loving Jesus. It wasn't obligation for him. I had never met really people closer to my age who were walking with God because they wanted to. This was the first group of guys that were really doing that I saw. And not only that, it wasn't just one guy. That was huge for me. It wasn't just Jake. If it had been only Jake, I might not be here today. It was that group of guys that you saw in the photo. Nate was instrumental in my walk with the Lord early on. I've had the longest relationship with Nate out of all those guys. The deepest friendship with Nate. We went to Russia together, as I mentioned. We've just been on staff for a lot of years together. Nate really, really made me the man that I am today. Duncan, like I said, taught me how to have a mind in love with God. But I saw their friendship. I saw the relationship that they had with each other, and I just wanted to be part of it. I didn't even want it so much for myself. I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to sit back and watch their fellowship. And that's something of the nature of God, because that's who God is. He's a fellowship between Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we get invited to kind of just watch that and be part of that. And that's pure joy. It's not even so much about God loves you, although that's true, but being invited to see God, to see the Father and the Son, the Holy Spirit loving each other. That's a whole nother level. And I want to be in the middle of that. I want to be in that. That's it. And I saw a glimpse of heaven in these guys because they had that same fellowship. What God is in you, He wants to do through you. So my why, and I want to ask you your why, but my why I'm here, why I went through LTC, why I'm still here 10 plus years later and about to leave, is because I said to God, I made a promise to God. I remember I was in the LSC. I don't know, it's so strange. I can remember exactly where I was, heading out towards the exit, towards the bus loop. And I said, God, I'm so thankful you changed my life. I'm so thankful that you saved me. I have to give this away to other people. This can't just be for me. I just have to give this away. So my why is because I'm so grateful. What's your why? Why are you here tonight? I'll let that sit in your mind for a moment. Why are you here tonight? And for some, you're like, honestly, I don't know, my small group leader just wanted me to be here. That's okay. That's okay. I'm not looking for you to ace the test tonight, but it is important that you know why you do this. And I think there are some whys that will get you further than others. And your why can be refined. It can be improved. You can journey, and we want to journey with you. But I hope you get to a place, if you're not there yet, where your why is similar to mine. Okay? Disciples are made. This is so key. Disciples are made. It took Jesus 3 years to make disciples. 3 long, day-long, every day is full years, where they had little rest, and they're on the go, and they're doing ministry nonstop. And for 3 years, he invested everything he had in those 12 men. It's a craftsmanship to make a disciple. We say this, we're a garden, not a factory. You can't mass produce this. Not one of you is here because we created this neat system to manufacture more people, more bodies into Chi Alpha. No one's here because of that. You each have your own unique story, your own journey with Chi Alpha. We're planting a garden where every individual plant is different, requires different things, has different needs, and we're paying attention to those because we're making disciples. We're not mass producing numbers, right? Disciples are made, so that means it's costly, like any craftsmanship. Any of you guys know if you do any woodwork, you can't, if you're making a table, you can't just rush through it. It requires an incredible attention to detail. You need to be precise. You need to spend time again and again to perfect it and to get it just right. That's how discipleship is. It's costly, time-consuming, because the finished product is worth it. You see, what we're after is not just, again, people in the seats on Wednesday night. We're not just after growing our organization. But why we're here is to lead people to surrender to the lordship of Jesus. And to dig into every area of someone's life requires time and commitment and trust and hard work and hard conversations and tears and laughter. It requires an incredible diligence that we see in Jesus. So that's the way we're going to do it. Discipleship is the antithesis of taking shortcuts. There is no shortcuts to the discipleship process. And you're going to learn all about that process in beautiful detail, mainly through Nate, who is one of the best and has been able to distill this down to the best principles that you need to know. But you need to understand, this is not a quick thing, and it will take time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort. But it's worth it. You see, another reason why it's worth it is because you cannot outgive God. We say this, God is a debtor to no one. You can never say, God, you owe me, because he's so quick to pay you back, if you will, or bless you beyond what you've given. Yes, we will ask you in leadership to give a lot. I think this leadership, as far as I know, asks more of our leaders than any other organization on campus. Without a doubt. I think that's true. But I also believe with equal conviction that our leadership receives more out of their college experience than anyone else at CSU. Wholeheartedly, I believe that. Is more blessed to give than to receive. And Jesus said, if you leave home or land, wives or children for my sake, you will not fail to receive 100 times as much in this life and eternal life in the life to come. You can't outgive God. And so the disciples could definitely see they were making sacrifices, they were giving up things. Yes, they had left their homes behind, but they never were able to give more than God was giving them. They got a family out of it that is greater than any biological family. They got 12 thrones that Jesus promised them. They became the leaders of the world. They turned it upside down. These uneducated fishermen became the world's leaders. I mean, they definitely got the right end of the bargain. You're going to receive what we call kingdom relationships, okay? Brotherhood and sisterhood. Brotherhood. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. You have not experienced brotherhood or sisterhood to the level that you will through leadership. It's impossible to experience it to that level without adversity. When you're fighting together, when you're in the trenches, when you're alongside one another and you're trying to make disciples, and your brother next to you or your sister next to you is trying to make disciples, that bond is stronger than any other bond I've ever experienced. My brothers are the guys who fight with me. Right? To quote Shakespeare, we few, we happy few. Those whose lot it is in life to fight. He who sheds his blood with me is my brother. Right? That's brotherhood. It's being in the battle. That's sisterhood. You don't achieve it any other way. So you're going to receive that for sure. You're also going to receive a better walk with Jesus, a greater intimacy with him, a greater dependency on him as a result. I've spent time weeping in prayer over guys and felt closer to God than I've ever felt. Never had I felt so close to God as when I was trying to win someone to him and trying to make a disciple. And then the last thing is you will receive the gift of responsibility, which is indeed a gift in the kingdom. That may sound funny. Responsibility is not something we long for naturally because it has the connotation of giving up, sacrificing fun and freedom. But in the kingdom, when you get responsibility, it's a blessing. It's always a blessing. Responsibility is miracle grown in your life. You are going to take off and you are going to grow so much that you're going to be unrecognizable from who you are right now when you take on responsibility. You become so different. You grow so close to Jesus. When you're having to teach these things, you're also having to live them out. How much better are you when you are having to impart this to someone else? When someone is leaning on you and you know, I can't skip this. I can't skip my quiet time with God. I can't neglect prayer because someone else will suffer as a result. That's a blessing. That's a blessing. Obedience is the reward. I love this. Jesus tells us in basic terms to the disciples when he's talking to them about forgiveness, and Peter says, Lord, I've forgiven my brother 7 times. And then Jesus tells them, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. And they say, that would require such great faith. Lord, increase our faith. And then Jesus tells them this little parable about a servant who serves his master. And he asks the question to the disciples, does the servant, after serving, expect to be thanked? To which the answer is obviously no. The servant has no intention of serving for an extra reward. And what Jesus is saying through that parable is your obedience is your reward. It's not like obeying is going to get you something better. But to be able to obey Jesus is the gift of this life. To be able to obey the Great Commission means your life becomes a noble life. Live for God. Obedience to the Great Commission, at minimum, is a great reason to do this. That's a given. I think we all know that tonight. You understand. This is an obedience thing. Not only that, we see clearly it's a good idea. If Jesus practiced it and Jesus told us to do it, there's no better way to go about reaching the world than making disciples. But I want to make it personal for you to end tonight. I think in each of your hearts there may be this question, not is this the right thing to do? Because I think we're all agreed there. This is definitely the right thing to do. There's something in your heart, maybe asking something like this, will I make a difference? Will my life matter? And that's really it. And that's what I want to speak to you right now. We see in Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. I have a verse, you can put it on the slide. Rachel is speaking to her husband Jacob. She's barren. Barrenness is a very common theme in the scriptures. And she's without child after all these years, and she says to him, give me children or I die. There's this sense in her where she's so desperate to have a lineage, to pass on to the next generation, to raise up children, that she would rather die than be childless. And that's the heart behind discipleship. That's the heart behind discipleship. When you start to cry out to God, God, I don't want what was done in me to end with me. God, don't let it stop with me. Let me please pass this on to somebody else. I beg you, God, allow me to give this to another. That is the heart of discipleship. And I'm telling you tonight, if you'll believe me, you can take God at his word, that if that's your cry, God will provide. God will make disciples through you. He'll make disciple makers through you, not just disciples. And there will be people in these chairs this time next year because of your life, because you decided to do that as a result, okay? I promise you that, as surely as my story is true. And so tonight, I'm passing the baton onto you. It's fitting. It kind of worked out to where I'm leading this first LTC. I wasn't originally supposed to. Nate usually does the intro way better than I ever could. But he had me do it because he had to be out of town tonight for a national conference. And so he asked me to do it, and I thought, this is so fitting. My last semester here at CSU, this is Ileana and I, we're in our final months in our race here at CSU, and we're being called to go to Russia. We've had this calling on our lives for a lot of years now, We thought we'd only be at CSU for a year, and it turned into 7. Just something that God can do to you. He can change your timeline. And I'm so grateful for the 7 years we've had here. And we asked God, when is the time to go? And he said, wait another generation. And so you're the last. You're the last generation for us to raise up before we go. And I'm charging you very personally right now, because I'm not going to be at this campus anymore that I love, that I've given so much to. I've wept over this campus. I've gone out and I've done everything I can in my power. I can honestly say that before the Lord. I've given my all to this campus. I've left nothing back. I've given it all to my guys and to their guys throughout all these years. And I want to make sure that this campus is going to have a stronger witness after I leave. So in a sense tonight, I'm asking if I can pass the baton on to you, to each one of you. I want to pass that baton. I want there to be people who care about this campus more deeply, who give even more than I did as a student, and who become lifelong disciple makers. I'm not going to be here to do it anymore. Neither is Ileana. Will you be the ones? Will you rise up? That's the question. So let's take a quick break. And we're going to transition. I'm going to give you some more just logistical information. I'm going to talk about your cohorts. We're going to get into that time later. So why don't you take just a quick break. We're going to do 5 minutes. So use the restroom if you need to. Grab some more coffee or tea out there. And we'll be back in here in 5 minutes.
Way.
sure I'm on time. Hey, Pete, Ryan, I have a question. Sorry. All right. Where's Joel? All right, if everyone could come back in, take a seat. We'll continue by taking a look at your syllabus. So if you can grab that really quick, you'll see that we have the classes laid out by week and topic, teacher as well. And so we've divided those, you'll see, into 3 categories: find, fight for, and feeding, as well as vision and characteristics of a small group leader. So find, fight for, and feed is really the primary way we think about discipleship, the process. First, you have to go find, then you fight for those people to be in your life and to get into their world, and then you feed them truth and the gospel and lead them to make disciples as well. So those 3 categories will be the breakdown for all those classes. We will have in-person classes here every Sunday night, 7 to 9 p.m., except the weekend of spring break. That is, let's see. Thank you. The first weekend of spring break, we will not have an in-person class. That will be only online. Then the returning weekend after spring break, we will continue in person for those of you that are still in town. But if you go back home during spring break, you will have an online option as well. Every week there is a live stream. We ask that if you're going to join us on the live stream that you are on at the same time. So be in person, so to speak, online. So that option is available if you, for instance, are exposed to COVID and need to quarantine over a weekend. You have that opportunity to be here still with LTC. You are allowed 3 absences, and after that, that's really like the maximum that is permissible. So 3, you can miss 3 meetings either online or in person, just completely miss them for any reason that you have to do so. You will need to make those up with a 1-paragraph summary, and that must be given to Nate within 2 weeks after the absence, as well as we ask that you still participate in that practical for that week. So if you miss that weekend and you're in town that next week, we just want you to still be on track with the practicals, okay? You'll see, I'm reading from the back of your syllabus under details important to know for the class, that we will have a LTC gathering Sunday, August 15th. We know that a lot of you are forward planners and maybe already thinking about your summer plans. So we ask that you would consider making sure that date is protected, August 15th from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. That'll be in Fort Collins. We'll have a LTC retreat that will cover the rest of your classes from this semester, and it will be in preparation of going out next fall and building small groups. So then right after that LTC retreat, there will be a 2-day leadership retreat. So with our current leadership, staff, and students, you'll join them for those 2 days. So essentially you'll be 3 days on a retreat. It'll be in town. That one, I don't know if it will be in town, but at least the LTC retreat on the 15th will be in Fort Collins. So if you can, please plan to make that day available and plan on attending that. If you are more than 10 minutes late for any class, it will also be counted as an absence. So just be aware of that. Please be on time. Our YouTube link, we'll make sure that you have that every week, but it will be, we have a special leadership YouTube channel. And so that will host our LTC classes every Sunday night. We'll get you that link if you don't have it already. Finally, at the end of our time here, we're going to ask you to register and sign into the class. And there'll just be a laptop available for you to do that. Put down your name, phone number, email, and you'll receive this week a link to a LTC Google folder. And it'll be shared with you. It will have handouts, presentations from each class for any that you may miss or want to go back to. So that'll be available there. Any questions about any of that? Yes, Zach.
How will attendance be taken tonight?
Yeah, so there will be, in addition to receiving that shared Google folder, you'll receive an attendance Google sheet that you'll just mark your attendance each week on that. But tonight we'll have you sign in a computer because we don't have any way to get that to you right now. So yeah, we'll do that. Any other questions? Cool. So at this time, we are going to have you divide into LTC cohorts. This cohort is designed to help you with your practicals, help you get to know maybe some other leaders within your class, and to do them together, to process together how each week goes. You'll see a list of the practicals here, and you can read through that on your own at some point later tonight. But each week will have its own practical, and your cohort time will be going over how to accomplish that practical, as well as assessing how the previous week's practical went. So I am going at this time to divide everyone, and I'm going to basically tell you which cohorts you are in. And then staff that are helping lead cohorts, I will try my best to make sure I tell you which cohort you have to lead. Any staff that are not leading cohorts, just wait to jump in one tonight until a little bit later. All right, so I have for the guys, we have, let's see, anyone connected with Eric Sandquist's resource? Okay, I think, can you guys raise your hand if you're, yeah, raise your hand. Who else? You guys, I have two others on the list. Zach, yep. Okay, so you three, as well as Caleb. Where's Caleb at? Yep, Caleb. So you four are together with Unruh in the back, and is Austin here tonight? Okay, Austin's part of that as well. Next cohort is Justice, Roman, Jason, and Zach McMahon. Okay, you guys will be with Chad. Okay, and then the third guys cohort will be Ryan, Anderson, Brad, JD, Cable, Lewis. You guys will be with Ryan. Okay, that's the guys. Got that? All right, then for the girls, we have, let me find my list. Okay, the one cohort is Marley, Sage, Katie McCauley, is that right? Johanna and Kayla Fairweather. Yeah, so that's one. Are there any staff that are connected to that cohort? Andrea, so you will be their cohort leader. Thank you. Then we have Katie K, Sarah, Jacqueline, Hannah, and Clarissa. Are there any staff connected to that cohort? Kayla. Okay, so Gibby with that cohort. Okay, and then we have, oh, sorry, I missed one with them in here. So, in addition to that cohort, we'll also have Jenna. Is Jenna here? Yep. So Jenna, you will also be with Kayla Gibson in that cohort. And then also Andrea's cohort that I mentioned, you'll have Kenzie as well, wherever Kenzie is. So Kenzie will be with y'all. Okay, and the last girls cohort will be Earl, Michaela, Olivia, and three more, hold on, Lynn, Katie W, and Kayla. So Ileana can tell which Kayla is which there. Sorry, I misread that, sorry. Kayla, I read your name twice. So Kayla, there's only one Kayla there. You are with that one. And do you have any staff with that one? Interest, what do you mean? Okay, Caitlin. Caitlin will be that cohort leader. Huh? Kendall, yes. It's possible that a resource leader did not get this to me. Which small group? Okay, I'm confused. Who are you talking about? Olivia, I mentioned Olivia. You want to go with her? Yes, sorry. I was like, is there a Kendall? Okay, that makes sense. I thought you were referring to an LCCer named Kendall. Got it. Olivia and Kendall wants to go with Olivia. Okay. Yes, absolutely. You are with that cohort. Yes. Okay. Everyone good with their cohort. So find your cohort or cohort leader. Make sure you find your people. And you can go anywhere in the church to get together. And then I'm going to give you, before you leave the sanctuary, I want to give you instructions on what to talk about. Staff that are not cohort leading, you can just pick any cohort to join in tonight. As well as any small group leaders that have joined. Cool. So yeah, find your cohort. Do you have yours? Nice, the whole row. Okay, before you go, cohort leaders, listen up, just cohort leaders. You have until 9 o'clock, if needed. We would like for you to discuss a couple things. All right, do I have all my cohort leaders' attention right now? Cohort leaders, listen up. You're going to ask what each person is hoping to get out of LTC this semester. Talk through their practical for this week, which is spend time with someone you don't know in the ministry. This practical is not something that they should do together, so make sure that each one individually spends time with someone that they don't know. Got that? All right, go ahead and find a spot. Be back here by 9. Yeah.
We PT2 because we were in the message to be cohort leaders.
Okay, so you'll be co-leading. So whose cohorts are you connected with?
I'm with Kenzie's my cohort.
Okay, so it's
So like Andrea's.
Andrea. Does she have anyone else with her, or is Kendall with her? So, Kendall, which cohort are you going with?
Actually, what you
Yes.
should have just go with the one my girl's in.
Okay, potentially. So
Okay.
you three need a home.
Oh, I'm the only staff.
So someone can join Kayla.
It's pretty large. Okay, is Jenna in your group? Jenna is in my group.
Yeah.
She's my girl.
So go with Kayla.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Andrea needs someone.
Okay.
I forgot to assign you guys since you're in the class, but like not. So you can go with your with Kendall. Go with Kendall. Yep. And then Sam, I don't know where he went. I guess he just picked. He's here.
But you're in the staff. I don't even have that.
So who's online?
Hello, people online. I'm actually not sure who is
Okay,
online
is it-
tonight, but we can talk to them through
We
here.
need to assign them. So Jen.
Is they beat us up there?
Dang it.
Okay.
Who is
Good effort, guys. Love to be faster. Love to be faster.